Introduce our Commission Chaplain, Ramel McMurray, to lead us in our prayer and our pledge.
Let us pray. Most gracious and all-wise God, you alone are worthy of the honor, glory, and the praise. We stand this evening to give you thanks and reverence. It's because of your grace and mercy that we are all allowed back in this chamber this evening. Thank you for protecting us and our loved ones over the past summer. I now ask that you be with our educators, administrators, SROs, and our students as they start a brand new school year. Continue to cover them on a daily basis. Dear Lord, I ask that you be with fellow Commissioner Robert P. and his family at this time. Cover them and work on their situation that's needed. I want to thank you for those that continue to protect and serve us all every single day, whether they're police, fire, EMS, military, doctors, nurses, and so on. Continue to give them the strength and courage to do what they do best. Now, as we convene this evening on Rutherford County matters, I ask that you teach us to apply your will on everyday lives as we invite you into our decision making. We are all one Rutherford County, no matter what zip code that we live in. I ask that you unify this body as one. We will have discussions and deliberations, but we must also be mindful of those that watch us as we make these critical decisions. I pray that self-agendas be removed and replaced with the agendas for the people of Rutherford County. For we know that your plans are much greater than ours. Paul says in Ephesians 4:2 that we should be humble and gentle with others rather than harsh and critical. We are to be patient with one another, helping one another in every way that we can, so that we can all grow together. Regardless of how someone looks or thinks in a different way, every person deserves dignity, patience, and love. I pray for transparency, honesty, and accountability. Teach us to show respect to others as we think, or sometimes think, that others may not deserve, because at the end of the day, it's a reflection of our character and not theirs. So, dear Lord, as I close this prayer, I ask that you allow us to lead and inspire others so that they will do the right thing as well. Continue to bless our county, our state, and our country. It's in your name that we pray. Amen. At this time, if you would, I'm going to ask if he can make his way up here, Mr. Sebastian Hennessy. He is 6 years old, a first grader at McFadden. So he's going to help us lead the pledge. And he is the son of Mr. Eric Hennessy, the Chief of Staff of Mayor Carr. All right, you ready, bro?
Stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here we go. 3 white stars on a field of blue.
God keep them strong and ever true. It is with pride and love that we salute the flag of Tennessee.
Hand.
Thank you. You may be seated. This time I'll call on our clerk, Lisa Crowell, to call the roll. Lisa?
Commissioner Oliver?
Present.
Commissioner Piercy?
Here.
Commissioner Rather?
Here.
Commissioner P? Commissioner Davison?
Here.
Commissioner Beverly?
Here.
Commissioner Kusch? Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Here.
Commissioner Anthony Johnson?
Present.
Commissioner Boyd?
Here.
Paul Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Irvin?
Here.
Commissioner Harris? Commissioner Dodd?
Here.
Chairman Phillips?
Present.
Commissioner McAdoo. Commissioner McMurray.
Here.
Commissioner Gooch.
Here.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yeah.
We have a quorum, 20 present.
Thank you, Lisa. You probably noticed Robert P. is not here tonight, and it was also mentioned by our chaplain in prayer. His wife, Pat, is in the hospital. Give special thought to that family as you say your prayers, and give special thought once again to what's going on with that family. We wish them well. This time we need to approve our minutes from our June meetings. I'll call on our Chairman Pro-Tempore Kusch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've reviewed those minutes, among others, find everything to be in order. Move that we dispense with the reading and accept them as presented.
Have a motion to approve our June meeting minutes, and second. Any questions? All those in favor to approve those minutes, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you. At this time, we've got a couple of resolutions of recognition. Excuse me. At this time, I'll call on our mayor, Joe Carr, to read the resolution of recognition for Jessica Hill. Mayor Carr. It's Lisa. Who is it? Leslie Collum. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners should recognize and celebrate the individuals who make a profound impact on the people and communities of Rutherford County. And whereas Ms. Leslie Cullum served Rutherford County with distinction and dedication for over 16 years as an Assistant Attorney General in the Rutherford County Juvenile Court System, whereas Ms. McCullum served as one of the original members of the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center Board of Commissioners and was a major contributor to the updating of the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center's standard operating procedures and manual. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Joe S. Carr, Rutherford County Mayor, and the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners on this day, the 17th of August, 2023, I do hereby extend a sincere appreciation to Leslie Cullum for her dedicated service to the children and citizens of Rutherford County, and wish her continued success in her future endeavors. Ms. Cullum, thank you.
I need a motion to approve the resolution. And a second? I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution of appreciation for Leslie Cullum. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you.
Let me, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I would like to take a privilege here. This was when this particular board was established, it undertook a very, very serious task of calming some fears within the community, setting the ship right out there at the Juvenile Detention Center, and bringing stabilizing the morale and helping with what the purpose was with regard to what that juvenile detention was supposed to do, Juvenile Detention Center was supposed to do. At the heart of that was a manual that is hundreds of pages thick. And when I saw it, I have to tell you, I was more than just a little intimidated by it. It was massive. But Leslie Cullum, I mean, she absolutely immersed herself in that manual to make sure that that manual not only complied with state regulations but federal law. And she went literally page by page, sentence by sentence, word by word, and got so into it she would object to a comma or a spelling. But that's what was needed. And so I wish she were here tonight so that on behalf of the County Commission and the Mayor, she would know how much we appreciated it, because she had a huge impact on us turning that around. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. And Ms. Collum, thank you for your dedicated service to this community on behalf of juveniles that unfortunately find themselves at a crossroads. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Carr. You've probably noticed I've bounced around a little bit. I wanted to move the Plan Rutherford down below our resolutions of recognition, so using that, I'll ask that Pettus Reed come forward to do a resolution of recognition for Eagleville High School boys baseball team. Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This time I'll ask that the Eagleville High School baseball team come forward this time with their coaches. Who else they may have with them that you would like to have come forward at this time? I always like to have young people up here with me. It makes me look better. It takes a whole lot to make me look better. I want to tell you what, this group of young guys right here, you got to understand, back in April and May, I had a lot of fun afternoons watching them work their way up to become state champions. And I sat along that third base line watching not only them, but several coaches here working their heart out. And it was something to behold, to see what they are. For about 9.5 years, I worked the Appalachian and Upper Cumberland area of this county. And they had a saying up there that I'd ride the river with that guy. Well, if some of you don't understand what that is, in the old days of the Appalachia up there, they did a lot of logging. And the only way they could get those logs to market was to tie them together and put them down the Cumberland River. And they rode it down somewhat like a raft. And they'd carry it on down the river to sell. And whenever you do that, you've got to remember that that guy that's helping you get those logs down that river, they depend on each other for their lives and for the opportunity to go down there and sell that. So anybody they said, I'd ride the river with that guy, means they held them pretty high in their standards. I'd ride the river with these guys. That's the way they played baseball. They could tell exactly what the other guy's going to do. And I think these coaches right here set them up that way. They taught them well because you're seeing them for the second time, 2 years in a row. And it's something to be proud of. I don't know about you, but I'm very much so. So let's get into this resolution of recognition of the 2023 Eagleville High School boys baseball team. Whereas about all you can say about the high school baseball team from the western horizon of Rutherford County and its state championship win of 2023 and taking home another TSSAA championship is that it's deja vu all over again. And whereas this talented group of young men who made up a baseball team which kept its fans, along with all those who watched them continually, on the edge of their stadium seats through the entire tournament, making numerous plays only to see everything else in you could only see it in major league parks. They outscored their opponents continually, plus the team to show unity, they dyed their blonde hair once again, adding to help create utmost excitement for a great ending. The Eagleville High School Eagles baseball team, with a record of 35-5, were crowned TSSAA State Class 1A baseball champions for 2023 for the second time in a row, after the first time of last year ever for the school to have a state victory in its history. And whereas the Eagleville boys baseball team members are Kason Lamb, Ben Thompson, Braden Baker, Maddox Bowden, Peyton Bullock, Brody McLemore, Bolton Daniel, Ethan Ledbetter, Josh Jeffcoat, Daniel Floyd, Brady Burns, Marshall Spann, Nolan Lane, Trent Young, Daniel Messick, Colt Basham, Elijah Watkins, Crimson Burks, Donovan Dew, Adrian Severi, Tucker Mallory, Brody Gleason, Nathan Brown, Ethan Ledbetter, Luke Davis, Damon Pruitt, Ty Lynch, Jacob Sweeney, Mason Spears, Landon Craddock, Carson Pittman, and whereas this has been another season to remember in the Eagleville community, and special recognition is due to coaches Brandon Bassam, Todd Williamson, Marty McLeary, trainer Kevin Wolf, along with Principal Tim Pettigo, and the school staff for dedication and commitment which make this championship possible, as well as encouraging good sportsmanship and inspiring team play. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that we extend this resolution of recognition of the 2023 Eagleville High School boys baseball team, coaches, and fans for their successful year. Resolved this 17th day of August 2023. Mr. Chairman, I so move for its passage.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution of recognition for the 2023 Eagleville High boys baseball team. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Coach? I even put it in the orange folder for you. I have to tell you, on Monday night, this guy and his sons were standing at the batting cage of the New York Yankees, so he gets around a lot of it.
Game has truly blessed me and my family, and it's, Commissioner Reed said, just it's a special place, a special school, a special community, and this team and this coaching staff is truly special. I looked up last year trying to find a number of what percentage of high school kids win a championship, and I found a number that said approximately 1.5%. Well, this summer I went back into that to do it again, and I really couldn't find a true number. So that tells you how special this group is. This group has taught me a lot about commitment. I said they are super close. Sometimes when we don't even have things scheduled, they're together, whether it's a church event or just hanging out or eating. And, I hardly ever see one of these guys by themselves, that they are truly a team unit. And as he said, I think that carried us through last year in the state tournament to do it again. They often say you have to play your best baseball at the end of the year to win it. And I have no doubt that this team did that, even with all the pressure of what happened the year before. To come back and do it again was truly phenomenal. And again, I'm blessed to be a part of them, and just, again, thank you for recognizing us and taking the time, and appreciate you and appreciate Commissioner Reed. Thank you.
This time, maybe you'll understand why I've juggled our agenda a little bit. We have a presentation by Planned Rutherford. Jessica Hill and I'll ask Doug DeMossi to come forward, if you would, please. And we'll follow this presentation up with our public hearings. So it'll be a continuity of presence of our outstanding planning director, Doug DeMossi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. We wanted just to give you just a quick update on the progress for Plan Rutherford. That's the comprehensive plan update that we are embarking upon or have embarked upon. Just by way of a little bit of history, our first comprehensive plan was adopted back in 2011. That followed 2 or 3 years of work during the 2009-2011 time frame. These plans are very thorough, and they do take time, but we are very excited at this time to have GNRC with us to update our plan. We try to update plans like this every 5 to 10 years, so we're kind of on the outside time horizon on that. But very excited to get moving forward and continue moving the progress that we've made so far. You'll notice on your tables, Jessica brought a bunch of these flyers here. I've got a whole bunch more. If you find me in the back there, I can definitely, anybody can hand out some more of these. For our town hall event we have coming up on Tuesday next week at Middle Tennessee State University. This is a town hall meeting to discuss, again, some of the progress that's been made, have a presentation by Brooks Lamb, author of Love for the Land. Just I listened to a presentation he made today, as a matter of fact, on a webinar that I was on. I was very impressed, so I'm really looking forward to that, along with other community leaders that will be having a panel discussion. So that'll be, again, this Tuesday at MTSU's School of Concrete and Construction Management. That starts at 5 o'clock, kind of be a small reception time, and then the program will begin at 6. So again, I've got extras of these if anybody would like those, but feel free to, I hope you all are able to attend, and feel free to bring others with you. There'll be a very exciting event. Anyway, enough of me talking. I'm going to turn it over now to Jessica Hill. She is the Director of Planning with the Greater Nashville Regional Council, GNRC, the project manager of our project. She gave a presentation to the Planning Commission back on July 24th. She's going to give roughly that same presentation, I think a little pared down, but looking forward to what she has to say. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jessica.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be in front of you and have some of your time this afternoon. Again, my name is Jessica Hill. I'm the Director of Community and Regional Planning with the Greater Nashville Regional Council, of which Rutherford County is a member, so we're very happy to be able to serve you in this additional capacity to update your comprehensive plan. So I will, ask to go to the slides, and yep. So really quick, I know I'm going to keep it really high level and brief for you. You got a lot on your agenda tonight. So just going to do a quick overview of what is a comprehensive plan, why are we doing it right now, what's kind of driving factors, what we've heard so far from the community, what the data is telling us, and then I'll echo what Doug's request to have you all come out and join us on Tuesday evening at MTSU for the town hall event. So next slide, please. Next slide, sorry. All right, so why are we doing it? So Plan Rutherford is an update, again, to your 2011 comprehensive plan. The planning process really is to help the county identify what practices and policies have worked well since that update, what needs to be changed to address some of the challenges that you're seeing now after about 12, 13 years. What are the new opportunities that you have to make sure that your community is represented and creating that shared vision for the next 25 years for Rutherford County, and making sure that we're addressing some of the critical concerns that we have heard from your community. I know housing, transportation, infrastructure, schools, you probably have heard it all from your constituents as well. And really, one of the primary components of the comprehensive plan update is an update to your future land use map, which guides your land development decisions and infrastructure investments. So, as you all know, Rutherford County is one of the fastest growing in Tennessee. Next slide, please. In 2020, you had about 341,500 people call the county home. Since 2010, that equates to about 657 people moving to the county every month. And then by 2045, we're anticipating to see over 555,000 people call Rutherford County home, and that's from Woods and Poole's estimate. So that's a pretty significant increase. And I'll get into the data and I'll dive a little bit deeper following, but these are some of the driving factors for why it's time to update the comprehensive plan in addition to just the age of the plan. So really quickly on the planning process, next slide please. We're currently wrapping up that first phase, the vision and expectations, the listening, what we call the listening phase, making sure that your community has a chance to tell us what their primary concerns are, what they hope for in the future. And we're leading into that step 2, the scenario step, which is really identifying a couple of ways that the county could grow based off what we've seen in the past and what we anticipate in the future. So we'll provide a couple of scenarios for you all to consider in the goal to identify a preferred growth pattern. And that will really guide the policies like your zoning ordinance and how that gets developed and where your zoning map is. And then the final step is really looking at making recommendations for policy and programs and service decisions and changes that would get you aligned with the community's vision that we're hearing coming from this first phase. So next slide, please. So where we are in the schedule, again, is we're right at that point of wrapping up the first phase, the listening phase, and moving into that scenario planning phase with the goal to have a draft in front of you all, or at least to the Planning Commission by the spring of next year. Next slide. So the next few slides, I'm going to cover what we've done so far. So next slide. So we've held 5 public meetings with approximately about 85 attendees at the kickoff in March of 2022. And we had 72 attendees at 4 community workshops in May of 22 spread across the community. We were in Rockville, Las Casas, Smyrna, and Plainview, thank you, Plainview. And then I know this is the 644 survey participants had taken the survey when I presented to the Planning Commission. I believe since then we're about up to 700 now. So the survey is still open. It was the first survey really asking folks what their visions were, what their concerns, what their opportunities. So that will remain open until we start into the next phase after the town hall kickoff, or town hall. And then we've held interviews with a number of you all, some of the newer commissioners as well, department heads, planning commissioners, and then we've held intergovernmental coordination task force with your municipality staff that are here in Rutherford County, and then also some of your businesses that call Rutherford home. So next slide. In addition to that, we've done a lot of data analysis on the conditions and trends, and that's what I'll delve into a little bit later. So primarily focused on population demographics, housing, transportation, and infrastructure, land use, and natural environment, because some of those were the primary concerns and opportunities we've heard from your community. So next slide. So what does the data show? So I know there's probably a few data nerds in the audience, so we'll delve into it. So next slide. This is a chart of the county's historic population since 1900. The significant growth has come really since 2010. 2000, and then up to almost 350,000 people in 2020. And I know since that census was a little different than past census, that could be, you all have probably, I think, seen a lot more growth since then. Next slide. So this is looking at the unincorporated county, what the population is. So in 2020, it was almost 100,000 people in the unincorporated county, and that is about 28% of the total population of the full county. But by 2045, we're anticipated to be about 230,000 people in the unincorporated county, and that is about 41% of the total population of the county in the unincorporated area. So you can see that there's a lot of growth that we can expect to see in the unincorporated county. Next slide, please. So looking at population of the age groups, this is important to understand because of the impact to public schools and your school systems, as well as the higher education system. So as you'll see, since 2000, the under 18 has held fairly steady at about 50% of your population. And then what's significant also in terms of a service delivery is the 55 and older. A lot of what we hear is the graying of America, a lot of more seniors needing services. So that's something that we can anticipate needing to be aware of as we look towards the 2045 line. Next slide. In addition, your population is getting more diverse. You have about 20% of your population identifying as a minority. So that is a non-white, non-Hispanic, Latino. Next slide. Also, your median household income is increasing. In 2021, it was about $73,000 in total, or median household income. That has increased since 2000 from a little bit under $50,000. What we're seeing, next slide please, is that your housing units are significant, or are trending towards the single family one unit detached. I'm sure that's something that doesn't surprise many of you, but what we are seeing is a decrease in multifamily, especially around the two units and 3 and 4 units, so the smaller like townhomes, condo blocks. Next slide. One of the items that we've heard of that was very concerning to a lot of your residents was housing affordability. So Zillow tracks annual home value over time, and as you can see from the line of the chart, moving very significantly in a very straight up fashion. Since 2000, housing and or home values in Rutherford County have increased significantly more so than in the U.S. So that's something I'm sure you're seeing as developments come in. Next slide. Similarly, rents are also very high in Rutherford County. Now they're not above what the average is in the U.S., but they are high in comparison to the rest of Tennessee, except for Davidson County, Metro Nashville. Next slide. Another item that we heard was people in the community love your school systems, the high quality of education that they can count on for their children. And that is shown in, over time, the increase in people that have, or graduates that graduate with more than a high school diploma. So that, as you can see, that the top bar is less than a high school diploma, so that is getting a less and less percentage of the population over 25. Next slide. Another critical component of concern was transportation. I'm sure a lot of you have sat in traffic, either on the interstate or on your local roads, and just with the amount of new residents and businesses that are coming to the county, it's no surprise. And the lack of, I think there's the primary couple of transit opportunities to Metro Nashville and also within Murfreesboro, but the primary form of transportation is going to be single occupancy cars. Now, probably related to the pandemic, it had started before, but in 2021, about 7.5% of your workforce is working from home in the county. Next slide, please. So what we're looking at, this is a map of the residential and jobs per square mile in 2020. So as you would expect to see, a lot of density in the urban areas of Smyrna, Laverne, and Murfreesboro, with a greater, like the green is where there's less people, less jobs, so that's primarily in the unincorporated county. Now, if we project that out, looking at how you're developing today, what we would call business as usual, next slide, you can see that a lot of that green area in the unincorporated county is starting to become denser. And that was one of the concerns that we're hearing from the community, that loss of agriculture and open space, which is one of the reasons that Brooks Lamb was invited to come to the town hall from the American Farmland Trust to address that concern. So moving into the next slide, what we've heard from the community, and I'll briefly cover who we've heard it from, so next slide, is primarily municipal residents and of Murfreesboro. But that doesn't mean that we haven't heard from people that live in the unincorporated county, knowing that you all do represent the full county. But about 74% of the participants of the online survey live in a city or town, and of those 75%, 81% live in Murfreesboro. When we asked them, next slide, what were their top 3 most appealing characteristics of the county, quality schools was number 1. Located near family and friends was number 2, and then the proximity to Nashville was number 3. So not too surprising in terms of what people said were their most appealing characteristics for the county. Next slide, please. And from those 5 public in-person events that we held, we asked similar questions. What were the opportunities that they could foresee or anticipate for the county, and then what were their concerns as growth came into the county? So some of the top concerns that we heard were traffic, congestion, loss of green space, overdevelopment, and then on the flip side, the opportunities were for employment, transportation opportunities, greenways and trails, and just capitalizing on the growth and development that the county is expecting to see. So next slide. So in the survey, we asked a very similar question on what their top concerns were, and it was very similar to what we heard in person: traffic and congestion, general pressures of growth, and then making sure that high quality of education and school capacity was provided. So those were the top 3 challenges ahead that we heard residents say. Next slide. In terms of from looking at it from an opportunity standpoint, very similar to what we heard in person. Again, that economic growth and employment was an opportunity. Well-planned growth and policy innovation, so that gives support to the effort underway for the update to the comprehensive plan. And then that increased educational quality and funding, specifically at K-12 and some college focus. So those were the 3 primary opportunities that residents identified for Rutherford County. Next slide, please. So thinking about from those opportunities and challenges and concerns, we asked what was the top goals that the comprehensive plan update should address. And the primary ones were protect the quality of the natural environment and conserve open space and farmland, and improve transportation options. So again, that is one of the primary reasons from the community that we have invited Brooks Lamb to come speak about his experience at the American Farmland Trust. So next slide. All right, so I'm going to repeat it because I think they say 7 times you have to hear it to really sink in. On Tuesday, we're having a town hall at the MTSU School of Concrete and Construction Management. 5 o'clock is when the doors will open to the public for an open house, and 6 o'clock will be the start of the formal event. Pettus will be leading a moderated panel discussion following the keynote, and Mayor Carr and Chairman Phillips will also be providing remarks at the meeting. So, Chairman, at this time, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any quick questions? Oliver.
Question. Thank you for the presentation. Will there be any other town halls possibly in the northern section of the county or in daylight hours? I've had some questions from senior citizens about the time.
Yeah, so this will be the formal town hall, but we will do 4 open houses in the 4 quadrants of the county. And we recognize that seniors are a critical component or an audience. And so we have our area agency on aging and disability at GNRC working to identify some opportunities to work with senior centers. So thank you for that.
Anyone else, real quick? Let me make a very brief comment. I can't stress enough how important this comprehensive plan is to the future of Rutherford County. I can't say it enough, and I can't stress the importance of it enough. The example is 10, 12 years ago, the state passed legislation that would not allow cities to incorporate outside of their current boundaries without consent of property owners or without request of property owners. That started a process in Rutherford County where a lot of industrial, commercial, and retail was being rezoned into the county, or suggested, or actually being asked to be rezoned in the county. Why? Simply because the cities are kind of sort of landlocked and cannot grow from a physical perspective. So the county has taken over that responsibility for expansion of our industries, our commercial and of our retail. We're not prepared for it. Every piece of property in the unincorporated areas is zoned residential. We have little protection for our green spaces, little to no protection for our farmland. The perfect example is, I worked at Heritage Farms Dairy. We opened that facility in 1981. There were 55 grade A dairy plants in Rutherford County at that time. 5 years ago, the last one disappeared. No more farms. That's what's happening in Rutherford County. We have the opportunity right now to stand up and create a vision as to what we want Rutherford County to look like for the next 30 to 40 years. It's our job, it's our responsibility. Pay attention, be vigilant, be excited about the possibility of us creating a plan that is the consensus of our community as to what we want this place to look like. And I stress that 100%, 100 times. We want our county to look like nobody else. We want. So it is an important, important opportunity. We have challenges. We'll be looking at alternative taxes, but this plan, in my mind, is as important as any other assignment that we have for the next year. So once again, your participation in this process is extremely important as you represent the neighbors in your districts. Carr?
So I'll be brief. Thank you, Chairman Phillips. The word says a people without vision will perish. And it's our job, the county commission and the mayor's office, to craft that vision based on the history of this county and where we are today. And so the greatest legacy we can leave to our children and our grandchildren is that vision. And the cornerstone for that vision is this plan that Chairman Phillips is talking about. If we want to leave a mark on our children and our grandchildren and their children, this is what we do. There's literally nothing more important. This defines who we are. People already know the kind of community we are because they're moving here in record numbers. 9,000 to 10,000 new residents every year. This is the fastest growing county in the state, the 43rd fastest growing county in the country. And there's a reason for that. And so it's even more imperative that we follow the guidance of Chairman Phillips in developing this plan that is literally the cornerstone for this vision. And so, like Chairman Phillips, I encourage you to participate in this because there's nothing more important that we will do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor Carr. Jessica, thank you. And we'll see you Tuesday night.
Chairman. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a
Yes,
question.
sir. Joshua James.
I'm curious to know where or how you chose where to do the public meetings for in the beginning.
I can let Doug talk about that. I believe it was based off of what you had done in 2011. Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner James. What we did in 2000, leading up to the adoption of the first plan, we broke the county, like Jessica was saying earlier, into quadrants. So we had all four. So we would have a community meeting in each of the quadrants. We used, well, at the time, we didn't use Plainville Elementary, but this time, because it wasn't in existence, but this time around, we still used that concept because it worked pretty well. So Plainview Elementary in the southeast quadrant, Rockvale High School in the southwest, Smyrna Event Center in the northwest, and then Las Casas Elementary into the northeast. So we try to keep it around the schools as much as we could. The Smyrna Event Center always works pretty well for us as well. But we're not locked into those, but that's how we had done it the first time around, and it seemed to work pretty well.
Well, is that something that we can circle back to again now? Because if I got those dates right, the last time was spring of '22.
Correct.
And with it kind of getting through these steps now to get back and get more in depth with more awareness for the general public to come back.
Yes, sir, and that's the plan after the town hall meeting is to schedule another
But
series
will
of
they
those.
their input actually be able to change the plan, or is it at that level, it's just more of an informal informational?
Well, it's going to, I think, a little of both. At that point, I think we're going to be still taking input, but also reacting to some of the scenarios that will be placed. Nothing is going to be set in stone until something's formally adopted, so it can always be changed.
Well, I personally would like to see that percentage number, try to find a way to get that, it's 74% skewed to Murfreesboro as far as attendance and awareness, to kind of get the other 3 municipalities kind of included, more involved, or at least more aware of it. I feel like we need to do a little bit better reaching out to those other 3 sections.
Thank you. Once again, thank you, Jessica. Doug, you're up. Public hearings.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Switching gears into our public hearings, we have 3 for you tonight. The first is by Willie Eugene Davenport. This is located at 740 Flat Rock Road. The existing zoning is residential medium density. Proposed zoning is light industrial. Size of the properties together is about 10 acres. You'll see in your agenda, it says about 5 acres to be rezoned. After they did the survey work out there, it actually was a little higher than that, about 6.5 acres or so. The area that they're asking for hasn't changed. What we did was estimate on the front end when they had the survey work done. It just was a little higher, so nothing has changed as far as our application is concerned. Just to give you some background, this application is the result of a zoning enforcement action. There is an existing salvage yard just up the road on Flat Rock Road that received a Type 1 conditional use permit for the property back in 2000, which allowed the current use as a salvage yard. The property was rezoned light industrial when the current ordinance took effect back in 2013. It appears that the business expanded its footprint onto the properties that you're considering tonight. The property owners were unaware of that and have just realized that the Flat Rock Auto Parts and Salvage has been occupying the back half of their property for the last several years. The property owner, therefore, is asking to rezone a portion of their property, the 6.5 acres we talked about, from the present residential medium density RM to light industrial, which is the same business as the salvage yard. Salvage businesses are classified as scrap operations according to our zoning ordinance, which are only allowed by right in the heavy industrial district. They're allowed by special exception in the light industrial, so the applicant is aware that to have the business expanded the way they are, that they will have to make application to the Board of Zoning Appeals. As far as the development of the property, really nothing is going to change. It's just going to essentially legitimize the activity that's currently going on there. During the public hearing, there was some questions that were asked. Most of the concerns that were raised had to do with the extent of what the business, where it is, and the fact that they've expanded onto additional property beyond what was originally approved. They were also concerned about setting a precedent of approval of an expanded salvage yard, what was already established but not legally approved. We did explain how this came about in the first place. Again, kind of walked through that just a moment ago. We also explained that there are a couple other salvage yards in the county that have a similar situation. One actually just made application to the Planning Commission for next month, so you'll be seeing that probably coming up in the next month or so. There were also some concerns of one of the neighbors in the area asking about heavy industrial, the possibility of heavy industrial zoning in the area if the light industrial should be approved. But we explained to them that if someone were to want heavy industrial, they would have to come back through the same process that we're going through right now. That seemed to satisfy the gentleman who had spoke. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a vote of 6-4 and 3 against. The applicant is present, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff? Any questions for Doug? Seeing none, at this time, I'll declare the public hearing open for rezoning request REZ 23-009, Willie Eugene Davenport. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. If you would, state your name and address for the record, please.
Willie Eugene Davenport, 740 Flat Rock Road. I just wanted to just make sure that everybody knew that it wouldn't be, it's nothing changing on the land or nothing like that, but the main thing I would say, if the junkyard ever shut down, then that's all it would be, is just an empty piece of land. He's just going to use that portion, you know. That's all. I was just going to make sure that everybody knew that I have no other plans but what Mr. DeMasi stated, you know. That's what my neighbor, one of the neighbors that was here was interested in knowing, and I didn't really get a chance to tell him. That's what I...
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Davenport. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward.
My name's Eugene Davenport, his father. I used to own that property, and then when I had it, the cars stretched over, and then when I sold it, they stretched over further. I let Willie have the land, and he was smarter than me. He went and made them pay. If he was going to use it, they was going to pay. And so when they done that, we had to get the zoning to get it right. We didn't know, but all he wants to do is get it right. And if it's, like I say, anything else, there'll be nothing else on that. If they move off, it's his property. Won't put nothing there, will be there. It's just his land. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. This is Robert P.'s district. Robert P. has asked me if I would to pass along to you that he supports this rezoning request and would have made a motion to approve, but we're turning that over to to make the motion to the chairman of our planning commission, Pettus Reed.
Mr. Chairman, I move for its approval with staff comments.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve REZ 23-009. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Mr. Damasi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our second public hearing tonight is for property located along Shelbyville Pike. This is by Mr. Buddy Gamble. Again, the existing zoning is residential low density, and they are also asking for light industrial. The size of the entire property is about 63 acres. They're looking for about 32 acres of that to be rezoned. The applicant would like to rezone a portion of this property, but has no development plans currently. He did not submit a concept plan because of that. A portion of the property, 31 acres, is already zoned light industrial when you see the zoning map in your agenda packets. So he'd like to have the entire property zoned in a similar manner. The existing portion of the property was actually zoned to commercial back in 1979 under a previous zoning resolution for the storage of heavy-duty equipment. It was zoned what was called C2 under our previous zoning resolution that took effect in '84. And considering the proposed use on the property at that time, when we looked at the area in question and the surrounding area, we decided at that point to zone it light industrial when the current ordinance took effect in 2013. As far as any development plans, like I said, he doesn't have any right now. I will say that if he ever does decide to do some development, we will have to see an engineered site plan, which will have to abide by all of the regulations in our zoning ordinance, state requirements as far as being along a state/federal road, Shelbyville Pike. They would have to submit to TDOT for any entrance permits, and landscaping performance standards would all have to meet again, county requirements. There were some questions from the Planning Commission about the zoning in the area and how some of them came about. There was also some concerns about the existing borrow area on property that the owner has to the north of this, expanding onto this tract. Staff answered that there's a different zoning process for that. They would have to go through a whole different process, and that it wasn't going to expand on this property simply because there's a property separating the two anyway. So after discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a unanimous vote. I believe the applicant is present, so if you have questions, we'll be more than happy to take them.
Any questions for staff? Thank you. This time I'll declare the public hearing open for rezoning request REZ 23-011 for Buddy Gamble. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning request, please come forward. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd make a motion to approve with staff comments.
We have a motion and a second to approve rezoning request REZ 23-011. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you.
Our final public hearing tonight is for some ordinance amendments to our zoning ordinance. This is ORD 23-002. This is in regard to transfer station regulations, which will be in addition to Section 1103 of our zoning ordinance, and this is coming to you from planning and engineering staff. There has been discussion over the last several months about the county building and operating a solid waste transfer station as part of an overall strategy for solid waste management when the current landfill can no longer accept waste. There currently aren't any regulations in the zoning ordinance dealing with transfer stations, so we began working with various departments, specifically Mr. Bishop Wagner and our solid waste department, our engineering staff, building codes, and fire and rescue staff as well, to craft some regulations to add to our zoning. What we're proposing to do is classify this use as what's called an extensive impact facility. This will only be allowed by right in the heavy industrial zone, but also by special exception in the light industrial and commercial general zones. So if somebody wanted to try to do that in one of those zones, they'd have to come back to do it. First of all, if it wasn't zoned properly, they'd have to rezone the property, and then they'd have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals in those two zones. The facilities will have to meet all state and federal regulations. When you look at the regulations on your iPads, and I'll say what I've said to the Planning Commission and Public Works and Planning Committee, I can go into as much or as little detail as these regulations as you would like. You'll see that there are definitions. Mr. Wagner helped us with some definitions for different terms that are used: haul road, transfer station, operational area, trash compaction, and transfer stations. You'll see there's conformance to all state and federal regulations required, specific standards, which include an operational plan. You'll see there's area and setback requirements, general mitigation requirements, odor control, haul roads and traffic, and storage. So again, I can go into as much detail with this as you'd like, but, and Mr. Wagner is here. He's far more knowledgeable about these things than I am. The Planning Commission did have some questions about the maximum size. We do have a minimum size as far as the actual property that it's located on, but we did not prescribe any kind of a maximum size. There were also some questions about researching other community regulations to see if there was a chance of other entities establishing a transfer station. We looked at, actually borrowed fairly heavily from what Williamson County. We used them as a model to kind of go what we had. Of course, we didn't just copy it word for word. We had to tailor it to our needs. But so we did appreciate the fact that some of that work had already been done. Also, we answered the question that we couldn't stop. This is not just for the county. You know, this would be for anybody who was trying to do some sort of a transfer station, but they would have to abide by these regulations. So after discussion and the public hearing, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a unanimous vote. I will say also that all this is doing is putting the regulations in the zoning. This doesn't identify an area or actually approve a station. It's just putting some regulations in place to regulate those if they do come. So again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Yes, sir. And I was perusing this. You said you all had a question about the maximum size. Did you get an answer? I was looking for it.
Well, no, there's not a maximum size that we put. We did put a minimum size, but we didn't put a maximum land size in there. No, we didn't do that. We didn't feel there was a need to.
Okay.
Okay.
Other questions for staff? Seeing none, at this time I'll declare a public hearing open for Ordinance Amendment ORD 23-002, Transfer Station Regulations. Anyone wishing to make a comment on this proposed amendment to our ordinance, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Chairman Reed.
I move for its approval.
I have a motion and a second to approve our ordinance amendment ORD 23-002, Transfer Station Regulations. Questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Doug?
Just real quick, just can't plug it enough. Just the Plan Rutherford Town Hall. I have extra flyers. Just seek me out. Thank you.
Brings us down to item H, public comments. We've had 4 individuals to sign up for public comments tonight. The first is Freddie Pfeiffer. Wants to comment, I believe, on the location of one of our transfer sites, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you, Chairman Phillips.
Up to 3 minutes.
I'm Freddie Pfeiffer. I live at 4386 Sulphur Springs Road since 1977. And I'm here tonight to talk about the convenience center that was in the works almost 4 years ago. Now, I encourage anybody that wants to just drive by there and look at it. It's a sight to be not seen. I went by there, of course, I live 300 yards from there. I went by there on Tuesday, and they had 1 lane out of 4 open. So they're like 3 more lanes. The traffic congestion out there is horrible at times. 4 lanes will probably alleviate that. But here's the kicker. $5+ million was allocated for these convenience centers. About $1 million for each one, what it boils down to. Now, 1 lane is open. It's all been paid for now. So, this is going to be like you drive a new car off of a dealership. You take possession of it, you got 3 flat tires, you got 1 good tire. That's about what it amounts to. The grass out there has grown a good 4 foot tall. The dirt is it's pitiful. I encourage anybody to just go out there and look at it. But something's got to be done. I watched this presentation a while ago about Rutherford County, and I heard what Chairman Phillips and Mayor Carr said. We recently passed the largest tax increase, I think, that I ever remember, to allocate schools on the northern side of the county mainly. Well, this is millions and millions of dollars. If we can't manage a $5 million project, at least $1 million of it, how are you going to manage this other money for all these schools? I'm wondering. But that's my comments. I thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeiffer. Matthew Fee, transfer stations.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Chairman, esteemed commissioners, fellow citizens. My name is Matt Fee. I live on Winding Branch Drive in Christiana, and my purpose here is to express my full support for the establishment of the solid waste transfer station. In a time when agreement is a scarce resource, most in our community have found common ground. Middle Point Landfill, affectionately known as Trash Mountain, needs to go. There are several benefits to the transfer station. By approving the transfer station, we place ourselves in control of our solid waste destiny. No longer will we be beholden to external entities for our waste management solutions. It is a step towards closing Middle Point Landfill. The transfer station represents progress towards the eventual cessation of the landfill's operations. This symbolizes an opportunity for positive change and a healthier environment. Currently, our solid waste department operates on a budget of approximately $8 million. By creating the transfer station and accepting loads from independent trash companies, the department can offset many of these costs and realize immediate improvements for maintenance and repairs of equipment. Embracing this initiative brings us closer to the laudable goal of diverting as much solid waste as possible away from landfills. Our commitment to a sustainable future is a testament to our dedication to the environment for the generations that follow. Despite these well-founded benefits, the opposition has not presented compelling arguments against the transfer station. Concerns regarding the $20 million investment have arisen, but it's crucial to recognize that this sum has already been allocated. The repayment of this debt has already been considered in our new property tax rates, amounting to a mere 1 penny of the new rate. To put this into perspective, for a residence valued at $400,000, the contribution towards the transfer station equates to roughly $10 annually. Consider this. Would you not gladly invest this nominal amount to witness Rutherford County break free from the dominion of Republic? Imagine the satisfaction of paving the way for lasting solutions to our solid waste challenges, not only for ourselves, but for future generations. As we reflect upon our recent historic property tax increase, let us refrain from perpetuating the wait and see that contributed to this situation. The transfer station stands as an investment in a brighter future, and I implore you not to allow hesitation to overshadow our collective potential for progress. For the discussion in this room, it does not matter what the timeline is for the closure of Middle Point, and it does not matter what the city of Murfreesboro is going to do. We have the opportunity today to address our solid waste. In conclusion, I stand united with countless others who share the vision of a sustainable, waste-conscious Rutherford County. Please approve the bond issuance for the construction of a Rutherford County transfer station and put an end to reliance on Republic.
Thank you, Mr. Fee. Carl Burning, transfer station.
I'm Carl Burning. I live on Herschel-Hudson Road in Las Casas. 60 years ago this month, I quit my job at 96 cents an hour in Chattanooga, and my parents brought me up here and put me out here at MTSC, and a school of 3,000 students and $90 a semester for cost of going to school. And I liked it here. I could walk to Square, walk to the Princess Theater, walk to Rosie's, get a city bus down to the other, well, the Martin wasn't there then, was it? Jackson Heights, what I couldn't say. Anyway, I really liked it for being raised in Chattanooga. I also liked the river. And wherever I could, I'd get out to Guy James Road or Flat Rock Road, or anywhere I could, the slab, I mean, and go out to Walter Hill and recreate. And I enjoyed it here for 3 hours. Then I took a job with the federal government for 3 years, and I could have gone anywhere I wanted to then, but I liked it so much here and the quality of life I had here, so I came back here, married and worked and did whatever. And my wife and I have lived in the same place for 40 plus years out in the county. And I've paid attention most of the time. The county leaders were, and a member of the county court and this commission, and I tried to realize what was going on. And I've realized that you all, what I wanted in my life was quality of life. And that quality of life in Rutherford County starts right here in this room with you all. You set the rules. You set the money. You determine where the schools are, where the roads are, how many police officers or sheriff's deputies we have. It all starts here. It's the quality of life that I've enjoyed for all these, since 1963. And I wanted to stay that way. We have the biggest problem here I want to go off what I had written down here, I mean scribbled. When this plan Rutherford came up and I started seeing those numbers, it's scary. The biggest increase we've had the last 20 years ever in this county, and those people have never had to go pay for garbage pickup. We've had this plan out there with our free for our county for years. We've been spoiled. We're spoiled rotten. I don't know if there's another county in the state that gets free garbage disposal. If I'd just be taking it to a place down the road, like me on Las Casas Highway. And also the numbers that are projected with Plan Rutherford, scary. And that means that the people that own the landfill out there, they want those people here. That's more tonnage for them. What, $105 a ton or something like that. Not from this county, but the same things happen all around the Nashville counties, and most of them come here for disposal. I think this transfer station is the first step that we could take to get away from the old-fashioned way of happened ever since the history of man. We've always buried garbage. That's all they're doing out there. They're burying it right beside our lifeline, the Stones River. Please vote for this transfer station.
Thank you, Mr. Burnham. Susan Allen, bond for transfer station. Ms. Allen has asked for an additional minute, and I've agreed to give it to her.
Probably don't need that, but, you know. My name is Susan Allen. I live on Nelson Lane in Murfreesboro. I'm here to advocate for the passage of the transfer station bond issue. But first, I'm wondering how many people in the audience or watching on TV have contracted with small private companies to pick up their trash and then switched to Republic when they offered a better price. And then their price kept increasing beyond what they had paid the little guys who were driven out of business from being undercut. I don't know if this decision is made locally or at the corporate level, but it seems to me that it's a tactic in order to take care of their investors, not their residential customers who actually have to live within their means. The Rutherford Neighborhood Alliance members have gone to both Republic open houses, the first time to study their storyboard information and the second time to ask questions. A couple of those storyboards are telling people that there is no trash crisis. Expanding Middle Point is the solution. They also claim that if Middle Point closes in the next 5.5 years, the disposal costs for residents will get expensive fast. And that Rutherford County receives a host fee for all out-of-county waste disposed at Middle Point, which generates millions annually. Did you hear that? Rutherford County receives a host fee that generates millions annually. That statement makes it sound like they're cutting huge checks to the county. I checked the county budget numbers for fiscal years 2021 and 21-22, and our actual host fees for those years were less than $724,000 and just over $920,000. The question popped into my mind, I wonder who they sent all those extra millions to. I find it disturbing that Republic is being disingenuous with some of the information that they are trying to scare people with. This morning, I sent you all an email with answers that Finance Director Mike Smith was kind enough to answer for me. You have a copy in front of you. His reputation and employment, mind you, depends on being accurate, and those answers refute a lot of what Republic is claiming. The reason for funding and building the transfer station now are that we will be ahead of the game for the day when Davidson and other counties are scrambling to find a place to send their solid waste. Building a transfer station now will avoid the inevitable increases in construction costs if we wait. If we don't have the transfer station, we won't be able to negotiate when it comes to the point at which there is no solution for what to do but to allow them to expand, which would mean 35 more years of literally being dumped on. Remember, if we don't have a transfer station, you would need to have an emergency plan to handle our trash when the landfill is closed. It could be 5 years, but what if it's 2? Please vote in favor of the transfer station bond. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Next up, elections and confirmations. I'll call on Steering Vice Chair Pettus Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Elections and confirmations. Item 1 deals with election of notaries, commissioners. You can find these listings of notaries. They may found them on your iPads, and they have been sent to you on SharePoint. Mr. Chairman, I move to confirm the elections of these individuals as Rutherford County notaries.
Second.
Aye. Item 2, steering would like to announce a Codes Enforcement Adjustments and Appeals Board vacancy. This will be a 3-year term beginning September 2023 through September 2026. Item 3, steering would like to confirm Mark Lee and Jennifer Watson to the Stormwater Advisory Committee. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you.
Steering wishes to confirm Suzanne Kauffman, Jacob Flatt, Kenya Deal, Ethan Conklin, Brandi Dover, and Laura Lowe as Judicial Commissioners for 4-year terms. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I return the business of election and confirmations back to the chair for your attention.
See, item number 5 under elections and confirmations, tentatively elect Chairman Pro Tem. Those of you wondering what tentatively elected chairman is, new officers are supposed to take office September 1st, and our September meeting isn't until the middle part of the month. So for continuity of operation, we tentatively elect our chairman and our chairman pro tem, and then confirm those elections at our September meeting. It's been our custom for as long as I've been up here. The nominations are open for to tentatively elect our chairman pro tem.
Mr. Chairman, I choose Trey Gooch. I nominate Trey Gooch.
Trey Gooch has been nominated and second. Any others?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
make a motion to cease nominations.
Have a motion for acclamation. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, for this, we need to be on the board, if you would. Please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
20 yes.
Thank you. Congratulations, Chairman Pro Tem Gooch.
Question.
Yes.
Point of order, I guess. So we just voted, did we vote on Chairman Harris's motion, or did we vote on Commissioner Harris's motion or Commissioner Beverly's motion? Because 2 motions were made. One was to cease nominations, and then one was to nominate Commissioner Gooch.
Chairman Harris nominated Trey Gooch. We had a second to that. Commissioner Beverly moved to elect Commissioner Gooch by acclamation. We had a second for that. So we voted to approve him by acclamation. He's been approved.
Okay. I didn't hear you say that. I thought you just said to close nominations. Okay.
Nick, do I need to reword?
Well, so maybe the wording wasn't exactly the way it should have been, but just 2 points. I don't think you need a second for a nomination. So when you had Commissioner Harris nominate Commissioner Gooch, that was a nomination, and then Commissioner Beverly did a motion to cease nominations, and he didn't say it, but I think it was implied, because it's typically the language that's used is to cease nominations and to vote for Chairman Gooch by acclamation. So that was seconded, and that's what the vote was. Does that help clarify it?
That was my intention.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether that was your intent, but that's the way I took it. Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 6, announce election for Commission Chaplain at our September Commission meeting. And the next is to tentatively elect Commission Chair, and I must vacate the chair, and Chairman Pro Tem Trey Gooch will conduct this election.
I'll just do it here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I'll take nominations for our chair.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Jeff Phillips.
You sure?
Positive.
Any other nominations?
Mr. Chair, I move to cease nominations and elect Commissioner Phillips as our tentative chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
By acclamation.
Yes, by acclamation.
Okay, so we're going to put this on the board. So, members, please cast your ballot.
Waiting for me to vote, aren't you, Lisa? Thank you.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Motion passes. Commissioner Chairman Phillips, thank you.
The vote was 20 yes.
Thank you. Moving right along, item number 8 is the election of our steering committee. The way this is going to work, and I'm afraid to say anything because Nick will jump in and tell me that I've done it wrong, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. You may nominate one person for the steering committee. We'll conduct a list, and after that list, we'll conduct a verbal election process for the steering committee. So anyone can nominate one individual for the steering committee. The floor is now open for nominations.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Commissioner Pettus-Reed.
Commissioner Pettus-Reed has been nominated. Are you making notes of this, Nick? Yes. Commissioner Reed.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Alan McAdoo.
Commissioner Alan McAdoo has been nominated.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate,
Commissioner Sereno.
Nominate Commissioner Rather.
Commissioner Michael Rather has been nominated. Commissioner Piercy.
Craig Harris, nominated for.
Commissioner Craig Harris has been nominated.
I nominate Jonathan Beverly.
Commissioner Beverly has been nominated.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Kusch.
Mr. Chair, I would like to nominate Mr. Wayne Irvin.
Commissioner Wayne Irwin has been nominated.
Chairman, I nominate Mike Kusch.
Commissioner Mike Kusch has been nominated.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to nominate Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Paul Johnson has been nominated. Anyone else? Last call. We've had 8 commissioners nominated for 7 positions for the steering committee. Let's see, it's Commissioner Reed, Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Rather, Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Beverly, Commissioner Irwin, Commissioner Kusch, and Commissioner Johnson, Paul Johnson. Do I have that correct? Okay. Our clerk's going to call the roll, and if you would stand up and vote for 7 of the commissioners. I told you this was going to happen, didn't I? Okay. You guys made your notes? Y'all ready? If you would, once again, we'll start with Commissioner Oliver, and if you would stand speak slowly so that the clerk can record your votes, okay? I'll give you a minute. Commissioner Oliver. Give you another minute. Would you like me to read those names again? Are you okay?
Commissioner Oliver.
Yes, ma'am. Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Irvin, Johnson.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Irvin, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Piercy.
Mr. Reed, Mr. McAdoo, Mr. Rather, Mr. Harris, Mr. Kusch, Jonathan Beverly, and Mr. Irvin.
Yes. Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Irvin, Kusch,
Rather.
Commissioner Reed, Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Me, Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Beverly, Commissioner Kusch, Commissioner Johnson.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Davison.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Beverly, Irvin, Kusch, Johnson.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Beverly, Irvin, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to nominate Commissioner Harris, myself, Commissioner Rather, Commissioner Reed, Commissioner... Oh, I apologize.
Yeah.
Slowly.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Commissioner Harris, myself, Commissioner Rather, Commissioner Reed, Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Johnson, and Commissioner Kusch.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Kusch.
Irvin, Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Irvin, Kusch.
Commissioner Reed.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, and Johnson.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson. Correct.
Commissioner James.
Mr. Reed, Mr. McAdoo, Mr. Harris, Mr. Beverly, Mr. Irwin, Mr. Kusch, and Mr. Johnson.
Reed, McAdoo, Harris, Beverly, Irvin, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Wilson.
Mr. Reed, Mr. McAdoo, Mr. Rather, Mr. Harris, Mr. Beverly, Mr. Kusch, and Mr. Paul Johnson.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Anthony Johnson.
Commissioners Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Johnson, P. Johnson.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Boyd.
Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Beverly, Commissioner Rather, Commissioner Kusch, Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Paul Johnson.
Jonathan Beverly, Craig Harris, Wayne Irvin, myself, Alan McAdoo, Reed, Rather.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Irvin, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Irwin.
Reed, Harris, Rather, Kusch, McAdoo, Paul Johnson, myself.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Irvin, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Harris.
Harris, Kusch, Johnson, Beverly, Rather, McAdoo, Reed.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Dodd.
Commissioners Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Johnson.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Phillips. Rather, Beverly, Kusch, Reed, Johnson, Harris, McAdoo.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
McAdoo.
Commissioner Paul Johnson, Commissioner Kusch, Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Rather, Commissioner Beverly, and Commissioner McAdoo.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner McMurray.
I nominate Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. No, I'm joking. I'm just trying to break the ice in here a little bit. No, I'm joking. Commissioners Reed, Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Rather, Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Beverly, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Kusch.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Gooch.
Chair voting for Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Paul Johnson, Kusch, Beverly, Commissioner Rather, Commissioner Reed, Brother McAdoo.
Oh. Okay. Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
Commissioner Sereno.
Commissioner Rather, McAdoo, Kusch, Harris,
Slow down.
Beverly, Paul Johnson, and Commissioner Reed.
Reed, McAdoo, Rather, Harris, Beverly, Kusch, Paul Johnson.
We're going to take a 5-minute recess while these votes are tallied. I'll declare the Board of Commissioners meeting back in order. This time I'll call on our clerk, Lisa Crowell, to, you would announce the results of the election.
Commissioner Reed, 20 votes. Commissioner McAdoo, 20 votes. Commissioner Rather, 19 votes. Commissioner Harris, 19 votes. Commissioner Beverly, 19 votes. Commissioner Irvin, 7 votes. Commissioner Kusch, 18 votes. Commissioner Paul Johnson, 18 votes.
Makeup of our new steering committee is Commissioner Rather, Commissioner Beverly, Commissioner Kusch, Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Paul Johnson, Commissioner Harris, Commissioner McAdoo. This time I'd like to call the new steering committee in session, and if you would please come forward. Our Chairman Pro Tem Trey Gooch will call the steering committee in session and will be in charge of electing a chairman. Mr. Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations, gentlemen, and Mr. McAdoo. At this time, I call the steering committee meeting to order. And at this time, I will take nominations for your chair. We got a nomination of Commissioner Harris. Well, okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mike Kusch, Commissioner Kusch.
What, just a second, we're having trouble hearing, so.
Okay, so Commissioner Paul Johnson has nominated Commissioner Harris, and Commissioner Rather has nominated Commissioner Kusch. Are there any other nominations? If not, I'll take a motion to cease nominations and vote for one. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, I'll just call the roll, and you just vote for one, please. Commissioner Paul Johnson. Commissioner Harris. Harris. Commissioner Kusch. Commissioner Beverly.
Harris.
Commissioner Rather. Commissioner Reed.
Harris.
Commissioner McAdoo.
Harris.
Commissioner Kusch.
I'll just vote for myself then.
We have a vote of 5-2. Commissioner Harris has been elected your chairman. Commissioner Harris.
All right, I'll take nominations for vice chair. Floor is open. Commissioner Reed. Anybody else? None?
Motion to cease nomination.
Motion to cease. Those for affirmation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, Commissioner Reed, vice chair.
Recognized. Chairman Harris.
I wanted to say something. It's very important to me. I was running late today because we had this tradition at MTCS where the fathers get with the players the day before a football game and put decals on helmets. And all these kids were just on every word I said. Their parents was on every word I said. And it realized to me that the way I act and talk has consequences. I have failed you, and I owe an apology to each and every one of you. I have allowed my emotions to affect the way that I govern. There's some people in here that I care deeply about. There's some I love, and I've let them down. And for me to stand up here in humiliation and to apologize to you is exactly what I should do. Me and Mayor Carr want the best for Rutherford County. We do. We just disagree on how to get there. That's his words, that's my words. But he is one of the leaders of this county, and he deserves respect. And Mayor Carr, I don't expect you to accept it, but I formally apologize. And I hope that we can go forward. And I want to apologize to my peers, because I don't ever want to get up here again, and I'll do my best not to. Thank you.
All of you have a sheet in front of you listing your selection, committee selections. If you would fill that out, forward that on to Chairman Harris. Chairman Harris, you'll, according to our bylaws, you'll need to make a copy of each one of those and forward that copy on to our Chairman Pro Tem to evaluate the same thing. Understood? Okay. Also, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm fairly sure that Chairman Harris will be calling a special meeting of the steering committee to go over the committee selection so that they can be presented at the, I'm not sure that a special committee's meeting, they'll be presented at September, so never mind. But once again, turn your sheet into Chairman Harris. Chairman Harris, make a copy of those and forward a copy on to our Chairman Pro Tem. Very good. See if I can figure out where we are now. Item J, resolution to approve the consent agenda. I'll call on our Chairman Pro Tem, Trey Gooch.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's 3 items that I am pulling and moving to the Budget Committee by request. That will be item J1C, recognize revenue from various grants continued from prior year and appropriate. I'm going to move that to M1F. Item 14, purchasing, I'm going to move that to M1G. Number 15, waiver of damage. Frontage Road K, I'm going to move that to M1H. Are there any other items that anyone requests to be moved? If not, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda absent of J1C, item 14 and 15.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any other comments before we vote? If you would, please cast your vote. And you're voting to approve the resolution, to approve our consent agenda minus those 3 items.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
19 yes, 1 no.
Motion carries. The consent agenda has been approved. No unfinished business. Item L, public hearings. We've conducted that. Item M, reports from our standing committee, Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee. I'll call on the Budget Vice Chair, Paul Johnson.
Evening, everyone. We're going to do this a little different. I'm going to ask our finance director to present all items, and then I'll make the motion. Okay? All right, Michael.
So the first item A tonight is general fund budget amendments. So be it further resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the general fund be amended as follows. The first one is for drug court for our DUI expansion grant. This is carryover from last year. The next one is for the Sheriff's Office body-worn camera grant. This is also carryover from last year. It was anticipated that this was also coming. And then the other one is for our Correctional Work Center 2023 litter grant. Resolved this 17th day of August 2023.
Need a motion on that? So moved.
This will be on the board. If you would, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, please do so now.
Record the vote.
20 yes.
Johnson.
So item B is going to be the initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the Buchanan, Epps Mill Road, and I-24. This resolution authorizes not to exceed $6,125,000 of general obligations bonds of Rutherford County, Tennessee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item M1B. Any other questions? On the board, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
For the vote.
20 yes.
Motion passes. Mr. Johnson.
Item C, and I want to preface one thing before we cover this. This is going to include the initial motion that you just voted on for the Epps Mill Road I-24 interchange, and it is also going to include the 3 high school additions. The reason you do not have an initial resolution for the schools is because that was already previously approved. So this is the detailed resolution for both of those projects. So this is a resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $162,200,000 in aggregate principal amount of general obligation bonds of Rutherford County, Tennessee, making provision for the issuance, sale, and payment of said bonds, establishing the terms thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal, of premium, if any, and interest on the bonds.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second to approve item M1C. Cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
For the vote.
19 yes, 1 no.
Item M1C passes. Commissioner Johnson, Mr. Smith.
So item D is going to be the initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for a solid waste transfer station. And item D and E are going to be linked, just like item B and C were. So item D is the initial resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $20,300,000 of general obligation bonds of Rutherford County, Tennessee.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second to approve item M1D. Questions or comments?
Comment.
Commissioner Piercy.
This is coming off of Public Works Committee. It left there with a 6-to-1 vote to approve. It come off a budget with a 4-to-3 vote to approve. If you ever wanted to make a vote in this courtroom that will make a drastic change for Rutherford County, this will be it. What we're asking you to do is going to undo a plan that was made 30 years ago of burying trash in our county. This is the first step to work toward stopping that. And hopefully we can move on further with this transfer station, maybe convert it into some type of recycle center also. Just anything else other than burying it in our county. Thank you.
Other comments? Ready to vote? Commissioner Harris.
First of all, I am not against a transfer station, but I do dispute some of the numbers. I am not against the issuance of this bond, but what I am against is I don't think that we should proceed to start building a transfer station without meeting with our neighbors Murfreesboro. Now, it is our job to be physical responsible. And if we're going to have a transfer station, each side is going to be building one at the same time. Why would we not put our resources together? They're saying they will give $10 million, we give $10 million. One of the disputes is that they are not fast enough, they're not quick enough. Well, that's not necessarily true because they have to build that transfer station because they're going into what is arbitrage, or I can't say it, but that's a big deal. And what that means is that they have low interest loans, and if they don't do something with that, if they're in interest-bearing loans, you can't make more money on loans. So it becomes an IRS thing, and they want to build as soon as possible. Look, I am not trying to get into a situation where I'm against anything, but why can't we just have that conversation? The mayor wants to have it. The mayor of Murfreesboro wants to have it. The city manager wants to have it. I would love to have it, but I also believe, and everyone of you know me, I do not go against committees. And Mike Kusch is chairman of Public Works, and I asked Mike. Matter of fact, I'm going to say it, I humbly asked Mike that he takes the meeting and let's talk about this. If it doesn't work out, if we can't get what we want, okay, let's go. We're done. We eliminated everything. But as a commissioner with a 16% tax increase, it is our responsibility to be physically responsible. And if we have an opportunity to save $10 million, how can we not do it? There's going to be some stuff coming up about a forensic center. Well, that $10 million could go towards that. Now we got 2 buildings. Or we got $10 million to build another transfer station, we have 2 for the price of 1. I am not saying that it's a done deal. I'm saying, why can't we have that conversation? Why can't the mayor have that conversation with their mayor? And let's eliminate this. We don't need 2 transfer stations going on at the same time. We can put our resources together and have 1. I dispute the numbers from the mayor on the operation cost. I believe that his number of $50 for trash and haul is off. I have talked to the city, I got their numbers, I did my numbers, and we're off about $30 a ton. That's a lot of money. So I don't necessarily know how the mayor got those numbers. I know he got it from Mac Nolan, and I'm sure the mayor, if he could just, the thing that worries me is I'd like to see the mayor have some type of contract with who we're going to tip to and who's going to haul. That way we know the numbers. I had the numbers, and I got numbers from the city, and we're way off. So that's a big deal because when we come up to operating cost, that money that they expect to make on this deal, which I don't see why a county would ever want to get in private business. Because I think what's going to happen is Republic's going to go, okay, y'all want to play this game, we'll just drop our prices. Now we're even more problem. And if we had them give $10 million and build this together, then we would save $500,000 in interest payments. So I don't necessarily know why we just cannot entertain that thought. A meeting, 60 days. 60 days is all I'm asked, and to have that meeting with them and see, let's eliminate it. We're still getting everything we want. We're still going to get the transfer station. It's just a matter of how we pay for it. I am for the issuance of this bond, against it, but I am against us going right away and start building a transfer station. That conversation has to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Kusch.
I would be happy to address those comments if you'd like, but 80% of them are hearsay. He does not have the facts.
You have the floor.
Craig, first of all, you are no longer on the Public Works Committee, so I don't know why you're talking to the city. It's none of your business. The city and the county are talking all the time. In fact, the mayor talked to Craig Tyndall yesterday. All right? We conducted about 8 years ago, spent a lot of money on a contract with a major solid waste authority that sit down with all the stakeholders, the city, the county, Laverne, Smyrna, MTSU. That was when Mayor Burgess was still the mayor. And we all sat down, and that authority told us we needed 2 transfer stations, north side, south side. That's what we would have if we partner with the city, north side, south side. We're going to do our own on the north side, and they can partner with us, and we can partner with them on the south. But we are light years ahead of them right now. We want to go ahead and get ours started because we really don't know 2 years, 5 years, it doesn't matter. Timing doesn't matter. It's going to take 2 years to get ours built if we start today. If the city starts and they're already behind the 8 ball, they're having trouble with funding. It could be 3 or 4 years before they get started. Yeah, I know, you're giving me that eye, but you're not involved like we are day to day talking to the city. You're working on hearsay. They're having trouble with their bonding issue. So you're an outsider getting your nose in business that you really don't follow like we do. So I wish you'd quit stirring up the mud because you clearly don't understand. We need this transfer station today. I'll say it simply. To have peace, you have to prepare for war. That's what we're doing with this transfer station. Period. We need it. We've got to have it. We're protecting ourselves. We're protecting our constituents. It is strategy, a strategy that we haven't had for 25 years. This is strategy that we are laying the groundwork on for a less than $20 million that we've already got budgeted for. This is easy cheese. Please vote for it.
Anyone else? Commissioner McAdoo.
I just couldn't sit here and listen to this without bringing up facts. It's facts that Commissioner Piercy, myself, and Mac Nolan attended that Murfreesboro City discussion on trash. They said they were going to do this. They said they were going to do that, and they did it. They didn't call us down there in their office and say, hey, we want to make you a part of this. They didn't include us none whatsoever. And I know Commissioner Piercy will witness to that. We need a backup plan. We do not have one. So we at the mercy of anybody dealing in trash. We're at their mercy. I don't know why we can't see that. We need that transfer station for Rutherford County. We need to be the owners. We need to say who going in there, when they're going to operate, what they're going to do. We need to be in charge. We don't need partners. Not on this one. We need to be in charge so we can be the one to call the facts. Thank you.
McAdoo. Anyone else? We have a motion and a second to approve item M1D, initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for a solid waste transfer station. Any other discussion? Ready to vote? Please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
19 yes, 1 no.
Motion passes. Smith.
So item E is going to be the detailed version of the initial resolution that you just heard. So item E is a resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $20,300,000 in aggregate principal amount of general obligation bonds of Rutherford County. Tennessee, making provision for the issuance, sale, and payment of said bonds, establishing the terms thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal, of premium, if any, and interest on the bonds.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
A motion and a second to approve M1E. Questions or comments? Cast your vote.
Oliver. Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
18 yes, 2 no.
Item M1E passes. See, we had a couple of items removed from the consent agenda. See if I can find those real quick.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I need to announce that the next budget meeting will be September the 7th at 5:30.
Johnson, you're probably still up. Item from the consent agenda, J1C, to recognize revenue for various grants continued from prior year and appropriate, has been put under the budget amendment. So either you or Mr. Smith needs to probably make a comment on that. Mr. Smith?
So, Commissioner Gooch, did you pull J1, just J1C off the consent, correct?
No, sir, I did J1C.
No, I mean, that's the first, there's several
That's the
parts to
first
J1.
And then J14 and 15.
J1C is the only,
Portion to J1, you just did the C part. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So J1C is a general fund budget amendment. The C section specifically relates to drug court. That is going to be the reentry training grants and the reentry evidence-based grant, the EBJP grant. And then also J1C relates to the Sheriff's Office Public Traffic Safety Grant, Teen Driver Safety Grant, and the 2023 JAG grant. All of these grants were grants that we had last year. These are carryover amounts that were shifted to this fiscal year from last fiscal year.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second to approve item,
J1C.
thank you, J1C. Any other questions or comments?
Question. When you say that carry over from last year, can you expand upon that for me?
Yes, so if you'll notice, there's one that's not, but a lot of these grants are federal grants. So the federal's budget's fiscal year is different than our fiscal year. So a lot of these grants run October to September, or September to October, or November through October. They run various years. And so when we're working on the budget, we start the budget process back in March. We're still spending down on those grants all the way up through June 30th. So a lot of times I just budget zero for these grants, knowing we'll come with an amendment at the first budget meeting to put these in next budget year. And if you'll notice, all of these grants have offsetting revenue with the expense. And I'll point, just as one example, the 2023 JAG grant for the Sheriff's Office, that grant, the amendment is for $2,841. However, that grant is for much more than that. I didn't know the final grant amount awarded for the 2023 year up until a couple weeks ago. And so we estimated, and then we estimated conservatively, so we're increasing the revenue and the expense for that grant as part of this amendment. But the majority of all federal grants are going to run through September or October based on the federal fiscal year, which is different than ours, which ends June 30th.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Johnson.
I'd like to change my votes. We need to be all behind this. We need to be 100%. So I need to change both of my votes to yes. On both of the things regarding the transfer station. I can't do that?
They're already
That's
recorded.
fine. I can still make up my own mind.
Commissioner Johnson, what we can do is record your comments in the minutes, and we'll do that.
Just go for it.
Let's see, where were we? J1C. Any other questions? We have a motion? Did we?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay. All present, if you would, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
20 yes.
Motion passes. Item J14 is purchasing, and if you'll look on the consent agenda, under that item 14, there are 3 purchasing meeting minutes that are on there, on the consent agenda for approval. Any questions on that? If there were a question on any of the minutes, now's the time to speak and ask those questions. And there were 3 meeting minutes, August the 15th, July 18th, June the 20th, that's been presented on the consent agenda for approval and have been pulled. No questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item J14. Would please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change their vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
20 yes.
Motion passes. Item J15 was removed from the consent agenda, and it came out of Public Works, so that's where it will go back. Commissioner Kusch, be prepared. Okay, next on our agenda is item M2, Public Safety Committee, Chairman Pettus Reed.
Commissioners, you'll notice there on M2, Public Safety Committee, it has item A, Public Health and Safety Building, location change. What this is concerning is that our last Public Health and Safety meeting, we had the fire chief to come forward, and there has been discussion within public safety concerning the Christiana station. And what the discussion has been, the location of that station, when it was first determined, you have to understand that's been almost 3 years ago when the locations of some of these stations were chosen. And at that time, there were some things that had not come about. And one of those was Plainview, as well as some interchanges upon interstate and roads within the county, and as well as growth within the area. So what they have brought forward to us is that due to calls occurring more in the Buckhannon area, and due to the fact that they see now that Barfield can answer a lot of the calls within the Christiana area, due to the fact that we're now going online with the Rock Bell station, that we're taking care of relieving them of a lot of calls out towards that direction, as well as help them in that direction. They're wanting to move the Christiana station over to the Plainview area. In other words, that's where we will want to build that station. So it's brought before public safety. It was discussed there, and it was felt at that time that that needs to be brought before this body right here at this time, asking that we move that station, or our plans to build on the Christiana school site, and move it to the Plainview site before we've ever built. Reason being in particular is that it's easier to move it now than waiting till later. And that was pretty much the discussion. I have the chief here if you have questions for him, if there's anything there. Commissioner McAdoo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sound like a great plan to me, but I thought we had issues with Murfreesboro on that sewage running to that school. I thought they just did just a straight shot to us at that school and wasn't going to tie in anybody else to that sewage. Has that changed?
Chief, would you like to come forward and answer some of this?
We'll entertain a quick motion to suspend the rules for
So
Chief
moved.
Farley.
So moved.
Motion and a second to suspend the rules. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Passes.
The reason I made this motion is when we have we cover the interstate, I-24, all the way to the 97-mile marker, which is Coffee County. Rescue Engine 51 comes off Barfield, hits Joe B. Jackson, and hits I-24. That's 13 miles out to the end of where we cover. About the 94-mile marker, it's where they cut through the interstate through a rock wall, through a rock, and there's rock walls on there. When it comes heavy rains, the cars will slide in, slam right in that rock wall. So if we're probably 20 minutes responding out there, 20 minutes on the scene, and 20 minutes coming back. So that puts us way out of our territory. With that station being moved to Christiana, we're right there on top of Epps Mill. Buckhannon Estates has 1,500 homes. They're going to add 2,000 more homes to that subdivision. So that would give us a better coverage out there. As far as the septic, the sewer, Commissioner, I couldn't tell you. I would assume we could hook to that. If not, it's going to be on the corner of Otter Way and Sledge Road. So with that property right there, if worst case scenario, we could put a sewer system if we had to. Yes, sir. I mean, the last cast is, if I'm right, Walter Hill is hooked to the sewer. Rock Bell's hooked to the sewer. Last cast is on the old system that the school system used to be on back when they moved across the road. So worst case scenario, we could put a septic tank and enough fill lines in that area. I think we would be able to take care of it. More questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Before we get into a lot of discussion, I'd like to have a motion and a second on the floor so we can discuss it.
I'll make them, Mr. Chairman.
We put that in form of a motion, Pettus.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Now we can go on with discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Beverly.
So I've spent almost a decade in emergency services, and I can tell you EMS works very, very hard, but they cannot extract people from a mangled car. They have to wait on fire to do that. 13 miles is a very, very long time. So when I look at spending this money, I think, what is the best term 10 years down the road? Over off Midland Fosterville is a fire station we could use if we needed to add fire coverage out there in the future. However, if we continue on the plan that we are on right now, we will have 2 in very close proximity, and I can promise you we just spent $6 million for the I-24 exit 89 interchange trying to encourage growth. I will be back before you in 2 years at least asking to build another fire hall because we will see growth out there. We're investing out there. I would much rather move the station, put it out there, and have the vacant station in South Christiana close to the current location as a backup rather than 2 very close.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, maybe we voted to suspend the rules. Do we need to go back in to make the motion to approve?
Any other questions for Chief Farley while he's up here? Thank you, Chief. Other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second to approve item 2A, Public Health and Safety Building Relocation.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we go back into session.
I've already declared it back in session regardless of the rules, so we're good, you guys. We're moving along, okay? Other questions or comments?
Chairman, if I could, if we're going to get technical, the motion was made while we were out of session. So if Mr. Beverly could make his motion again and get a second, I think we'll be square.
Thank you, Nick.
Sorry.
Okay, we need a motion. Commissioner Beverly.
I make the motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. Now other discussion. We'll go on the board for this. If you would, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
20 yes.
Chairman Reed.
Good news, I've got something that doesn't require a motion. And what it is some good news is that we have moved fire equipment into the Rockville station. We are beginning to move men into the Rockville station, and possibly by Monday, Chief, at 7 o'clock on Monday, it will be occupied. Friday morning, tomorrow morning, we'll have people out there. It'll be occupied, that station will be. This will be our first station of these that we're building. So we're excited about this. We've had the walkthrough. It really looks good. And now what I want you to do is get out your calendars, whatever you have, if it's electronic, if it's written down, or if you have to take it home and put it on your refrigerator. I want you to do and write down the date of August the 27th, between 2 and 4, we're having a community open house at the Rockville station. And it's going to be a humdinger. It's that we're doing it by the order of your mayor right here. He said he wanted every one of these when we open them to be a community event. Now, I want you to understand this is not going to be a situation of political speeches. This is for the communities. We want them to know this is theirs. In fact, I was told the other day when we were out there doing the walkthrough by an individual who said, it gives me a warm feeling to know this is here now. And we're hoping this is what we're wanting all across this county when we open these. But we're going to do it. We're going to open it. In fact, we've already had the elementary school to want to adopt that station. So the students over there are going to be adopting that station. We're going to have a great day. Come on out. We're going to have Kona ice there for you, so you don't have to worry about it even being hot. So make sure you bring your family out and be a part of that celebration for our first station and be there. Mr. Chairman, our next public safety meeting will be August the 28th at 5:30.
Thank you, Chairman Reed. M3, Health and Education, Chairman Phil Dodd.
Thank you, Chairman. If you'll indulge me for a moment, I do have a couple of bullet points from the Superintendent of Schools. School started last Monday. Enrollment is 50,800 pre-K through 12. The staffing is going pretty well, is the phrase I heard from the director, with the exception of special ed and English as second language. Also, consulting work on the rezoning and space study is continuing, and proposals and public zoning meetings will begin in September, so keep your ears open for that. Also, test scores will be released later this month. I think the state has held up test scores, so the superintendent says test scores are strong, but the actual report won't be out till later. And finally, our next meeting is August 29th in these chambers at 6 p.m. and they will be chaired by Vice Chairman Phil Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman Dodd. Item M4, Property Management Committee, Chairman Alan McAdoo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no report tonight, and our next meeting will be August the 24th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you, Alan. Item M6, Public Works and Planning Committee, Chairman Mike Kusch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no report, but I would like, on behalf of the Public Works Committee, thank everybody for their vote tonight for the support of the transfer station. Our next meeting is September 5th, which is the day after a holiday, I believe. And so thank you very much.
Item J15 was moved off the consent agenda under Public Works. Any way you can comment on that? I'm sorry? It's the waiver for frontage and damages, water.
I can, if you want.
Take your time.
I can help explain this. It was pulled off the consent agenda. If somebody has specific questions about it, I'm happy to try and answer them. I was not at the Public Works Committee meeting, but I have seen these before and from Greg Brooks. But if anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer.
If you can explain it, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, so when roads are dedicated to the county, they're accepted into the county road book, which Commissioner Johnson is very familiar with. Through the Highway Commission, they meet and they accept roads into the road book. And oftentimes, when roads become abandoned or no longer of public use, there are steps taken where we get owners to relinquish any of the rights they may have to the center line of the right-of-way to the road. And in so doing that, we require them to sign this waiver of damages that says we're going to close this road because you've requested us to close this road. The county no longer has any public utility for the road, and they're going to release us from damages as a result of closing the road. So your highway superintendent has secured the requisite signatures on that waiver of release, and in order to formally remove it from the road book to where the highway department no longer has to maintain it, that's what you're seeing in this resolution here. Yes, ma'am. You
Other
do,
questions?
yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve that
J15.
resolution. Yes, sir, J15.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve item J15. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you. Item M7, Steering, Legislative, and Governmental Committee, Chairman Craig Harris.
First thing is Districts 3, 4, 8, 9, and 17 have not turned in your request. So can you get that to me before you leave? Commissioners, next is hiring Will Denami as lobbyist. And the resolution goes, whereas Rutherford County previously hired lobbyist Will Denami to assist Rutherford County with lobbying effects during the 22-23 session of the Tennessee General Assembly. And whereas Rutherford County believes it is in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County to renew its agreement with lobbyist Will Denami to represent and assist Rutherford County with lobbyist efforts during the 23-24 session of the Tennessee General Assembly through June 30th, 2024. As reflected in the agreement attached hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference as if copied herein verbatim, now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the agreement attached as Exhibit A shall be and hereby is approved, and further that the county mayor shall be hereby authorized to execute the same. Resolved the 17th day of August 2023.
Need a motion? Have a motion
Second.
and a second to approve. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, may we speak to this gentleman?
Sure can. I need a motion to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend.
Have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye. Mr. Denami.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
Comments, Will, and then we'll ask questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to be here. Let me start by saying thank you to the mayor for selecting me to be a part of the team originally, working on behalf of Rutherford County and the citizens of this county to the General Assembly this year. It's an honor to be before you again to continue working for you. I started with the General Assembly in December of 2002 from right here in Rutherford County as an intern at MTSU. I've been there for every session since. I became a registered lobbyist in 2007. I work primarily on local government issues. I represent a variety of counties, including Hamilton County, Williamson County, Blount County. I work for assessors of property. I have since 2007, so I work on revenue issues related to local government finance. I work for 911 districts, represent the Davidson County Emergency Communications Board and TN 911, and I also work for the South Central Tennessee Development District, which is 13 counties. So it's an honor to be here before you today. I'm proud of the work that we accomplished. We have a lot more to do. Session starts back on Monday. With that, Mr. Chairman,
Any questions for Mr. Denami? Commissioner James?
Yes. As a lobbyist on our behalf up there, roughly how many separate committees for the what we're looking to hire you in will you actually be speaking with primarily?
So on the current legislation that we've been working on, we start with the local government committee in the House, which has 3 subcommittees. Primarily, the issues we're working on goes through property and planning on the House. On the Senate side, it goes through the state and local government committee. From there, those generally will go to the finance committee and then generally would go to the calendar and rules before going to the floor.
Roughly how many representatives are on the committees? Ballpark number that you'd be?
So on there's 9 members. I think it's either 9 or 11 on the Senate, state, and local. The full House committee, I don't know, it's 20-something on the local committee. And then, of course, 99 members in the House, 33 on the Senate floor.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at with all that is you're asking for, I believe the number was $75,000 for the year to lobby on our behalf. And I'm worried because you've had the last couple of weeks since I saw you on the steering committee, and you only have 21 of us to ask for the job. And this is the first I've talked to you, first we've met, first week. You could have text, email, phone call, anything. If you're going to speak on our behalf, but you won't come speak for your paycheck, I'm just trying to connect that dot there. So I know I'm kind of being kind of a little hard on it in the moment on that, but I would have liked to have seen you before this moment and, or not watched and heard the same spiel that I saw on steering. I'd like to have had a little bit more detailed information on how we can move ahead and get to what we're trying to get, the biggest bang for the buck.
If I could try to answer that question. I believe at the steering committee, the objection, if there was objection, appeared to be a communication issue, a communication problem that we seem to have had last legislative session. And let me just say it was a misunderstanding. And I'm not going to say whose fault it was. It was part my fault, part the steering committee's fault, part the mayor's fault, part the lobbyist's fault. The issue really was that the lobbyist that we hired, and Will was not the only one, but he will be the only one this time if he's approved. So what was worked out at the steering committee was that will make a monthly report as to the progress and what's happening to our steering committee. And as things heat up in Nashville and he needs to have communication on a more regular basis, he'll contact the mayor's office, your chairman, and the chairman of the steering committee for guidance and updates. So every month, this commission will get a report as to what's happening in Nashville and be informed at least through this winter and through the next legislative session through next spring. So we've tried to fill those gaps and keep everyone as informed as and involved in the process as we possibly can. Let me just say, you probably are picking up that I'm supporting this, and the reason that I am is because we've presented resolution after resolution in the past and prayed that our legislative delegation would carry those resolutions to Nashville. And I'm here to say that they never got out of Rutherford County. Last year they did. Although we were unsuccessful, we've made inroads, and I would hate to see those inroads and our progress move back to ground zero. So it is the money I believe that we've set aside is in our budget, and Will has agreed to keep us as informed as we possibly can. Let me just say that there are some highly confidential things that go on in Nashville in the hallways at time to time, and some legislators agree to talk on condition of not being repeated. Some of those things will need to be honored, and I'm sure all of you know that. So we'll keep this commission informed through our steering committee, and he'll keep this commission informed through conversations as needed, on a more regular basis as needed, through the mayor's office, to your chairman, and also to the chairman of the steering committee.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Sir.
That wasn't what I was getting at. I watched steering. I saw that he agreed to do the monthly things, and the previous arrangements where he was reporting to the mayor, that was how we set that up. That wasn't my holdback, my reservation. My reservation was coming to this body to ask us for a paycheck without asking before this moment, actually knowing the gentleman before this moment. It just felt like I'm about work ethic. It felt like there could have been more effort now to get it, and I'm afraid that once the money is put out, the work ethic might not show. So for me, I'm just asking you to, in the future, put forth the work ethic. That's my question, is ask.
Commissioner, I'd be happy to follow up with you. I'll stay after the meeting. I'd love to get to know you better and answer any questions and provide any information I can.
I apologize, Commissioner James. I didn't understand the question.
I have a couple quick
Commissioner
questions.
Murray.
I do recall at the last meeting that you were at, was Mr. Denami's name on the agenda for that night, that evening? Was it on there, the steering that he was at? Okay. So that's kind of our part as well as the commissioners. If we want to we can sit in on these meetings to ask questions. That's just my opinion. And then second of all, we should reach out to individuals if we have questions. We shouldn't just always wait for someone to come knocking at our door. So that's another observation as well. And I'm a believer in second chances. So the communication was an issue. So I'm for this as well. You know, going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Beverly.
I'll be the first to say I was a no vote in steering, and it was a matter of principle for me, but I took a step back and to think about it. We paid Will's firm a lot more money last time around, and there were some shared responsibilities and some things fell through the cracks. Will has trimmed the size of that contract where he is the sole person who bears that responsibility. He has put himself willing to come speak with us. Just before our meeting, I went up to him and said, hey, after Labor Day, to allow them after special session, I'd like to meet with you so we are coordinated. And there was not a single hesitation. So coming as a no vote, I see the work ethic he's done. I remember Commissioner Reed talking about the background investigation he did. And I've thought better of it, and I'm in favor of this, and I hope you will vote that way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Beverly. Mr. Chair. Anyone else? Commissioner Johnson, Anthony Johnson.
Forgive me if I mispronounce your name, but Mr. Donami.
That's it. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I talked to you here like last week. It was a good talk. You cleared up the heartburn I had. I too was disappointed because we didn't have any feedback from our lobbyist. Now we're talking about one, we're talking about you. I've met you. I'm very pleased with pleased with our discussion. You answered every question I had. I give you my vote of confidence tonight, at least for a year. Right. But hopefully for longer.
Yes, sir.
Because I trust you to do a good job, and the heartburn I had wasn't with you. It was just the process that has been worked out, as been explained by our chair. I'm 100% behind you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to correct a comment I made. I said we engaged his firm with a larger contract. We engaged multiple firms, and then we elected this time around to just go with Mr. Donami. So I was mistaken on that and just wanted to clarify.
Anyone else? Commissioner James.
Mr. Chairman, first I want to say I am for us having I am for us having the lobbyist to go up there. We need it. It's a very much needed thing. I did research you specifically and your firm, research the details, and I'm very impressed with it. What I did was, Commissioner McMurray, was I looked at, and my belief was thinking that a lobbyist should reach out for the stuff that he is wanting. And so that was part of my strategy, was to wait to see. I've watched the meetings, I've researched the groups. I wanted to wait and see if he'd actually reach out. And so I was pointing out that part we failed upon, and in my opinion needs to improve that detail, because I want to know that, you know, in the month before we hear about the details of the meeting, that we are actually seeing results, that it's worthwhile, that we just didn't take the money and run, so to speak, even though I don't believe that's what you'll do.
Well, if
Mayor Carl.
can I respond? Commissioner, I apologize to you. I meant no disrespect not reaching out to you beforehand. I would like to follow up with you and to show you how I operate.
Mayor Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to make sure something's perfectly clear. We worked with 5 lobbyists last year. Will Donami was one of the 5 lobbying groups. And Commissioner James, he's here before you tonight because of his work ethic. It's absolutely outstanding. And if you're looking for somebody who's going to put in a tireless effort on behalf of Rutherford County, this county couldn't pick anybody better. So I hope everybody understands that this gentleman's work ethic is above reproach. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? We have a motion and a second to approve. Item M7B. Other discussion. We're going on the board for this. If you would, please cast your vote. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Chairman.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
20 yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Congratulations, Will. Go to work. Commissioner Harris, you done? Talking about Lisa Kay. I'd like to suspend the rules and allow for... Okay. Under other business, remind me, okay? Let me just say that the opioid committee is exemplary. It is amazing what that committee has accomplished compared to other committees across the state which have accomplished nothing. And our committee is the gold standard, it appears. It was, if any of you looked at internet postings today, our opioid committee was highlighted on the internet for what we are doing in Rutherford County. And not only that, but I think Channel 2 did a story covering what is happening in Rutherford County, and it's humbling to see the passion that committee, led by Chairman Harris, has been able to do, and I couldn't be more proud. And I know it's probably not time for a shout out, but there's one right there, and I thank you for Commissioner Harris, and Commissioner Reed, I'm sorry, is also on that committee, and I've seen these two guys at work, and it's just amazing. Rutherford County is much better off because of your work on that opioid committee. Thank you very much. The next meeting, I think, of our steering committee is September the 6th. And under other business, you had something? Commissioner Harris.
Chairman Carr, we have a budget amendment that we'd like to have. It is take $25,000 from decrease from our public and health and welfare and increase our alcohol drug programs advertising. What this is we did a major awareness campaign, and we are going to be in a organization called Recovery Fest, which is a big thing for all the recovery centers, and we're going to be a fund a sponsor for that Recovery Fest. So it is $25,000 coming out of our funds, and it's going to advertising.
Move it from where to where again?
Okay, I'm taking it from public health and welfare, and I'm increasing alcohol and drug programs advertising.
I've never seen
That's your request. We have a motion and a second. Now discussion on that motion. Everybody understand? Nick, we good?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay. We'll be on the board for this, so if you would, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
20 yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Lisa, you have something?
I do. So I am proud to announce that the Rutherford County One Stop will have our ribbon cutting next Thursday, August the 24th at 11 a.m. The address is 3906 Blaze Drive. And I would like to invite our commission and our prior commission to this ribbon cutting. This will be a joint ribbon cutting with the state of Tennessee. And it's a long time coming, and I'm proud that it's here. So I want to make sure everybody understands that they are invited, and I want to see them all there. And thank you for putting this together. It really is an important thing, and it was the prior commission and this commission that has made it happen, and I'm just proud to be clerk. Thank you.
That's next Thursday, 11 o'clock, ribbon cutting. Thank you, Lisa. I asked our finance director, Michael Smith, to put together a little spreadsheet. You have that in front of you here. And the reason for that, I know a lot of you have taken questions, some heated, about our property tax increase and whether you voted for it or not. I asked Michael to put this spreadsheet together for you so you could use that. You could probably put it in your wallet or in your vest pocket or somewhere where you can get a hold of it, to where when someone asks, why did you vote for a 26-cent increase, or why did the commission vote for it, whether or not you voted for it, you can explain it, exactly where our pennies went. And I'd like for Michael to explain this, if you could, and so you can have this available to you, and you can answer those questions, in essence, in a very nice way, that this is where our money went. And if we hadn't have done that, what would you suggest that we have cut from the budget? So, Michael, if you would, kind of explain that spreadsheet.
So this is kind of a real quick snapshot of the budget and the tax rate. We will have a more detailed budget book coming out in the next couple weeks. But you'll see it's broken down by fund, all of our budgeted funds that we have. And then you'll see the prior year's tax rate and the new tax rates, our revenues, our expenses, the percent that the budget makes up. And so you'll notice that the schools make up almost 70% of our operating budget. I get that question a lot. And then our revenues over under appropriations. So I do want to point out one thing in front of you, because I get this question quite a bit. It looks like we have a $7.5 million deficit. We do, but it was planned. So if you'll notice, the large majority of that is the cafeteria fund at the schools. As you accumulate money in the schools, the USDA requires you to have a planned spend down, and what that generally is used for is upgrading of kitchen equipment and things like that. So you'll have profit over a couple years, then you upgrade, ovens, different things like that. And then you'll notice our general fund has a deficit, but that is due to receiving some grant revenue in the prior year and spending it in this year. And then our debt service fund has a slight deficit, but what that is due to is we will not actually hit that deficit. That is really due to the timing of principal and interest payments of this new bond issue. So I do not anticipate ending in a deficit there. And then the other thing I wanted to point out was where we moved the pennies, which funds they went to. So you can see there where the new pennies went. And just as a quick snapshot, we moved 11 pennies into our debt service fund. That majority funded the high school additions, a potential new elementary school, the transfer station, and the I-24 project, which you voted on tonight. Then we raised 26 pennies. I did a very quick snapshot. The majority of that was for public health and safety buildings. We did also increase the county pay table this year to stay competitive. And then we had several other miscellaneous things that we also did just due to inflation and trying to fix our prior budget deficit. Because if you remember, last year started budget ended with about $64 million in a deficit, and this year we've cut it to 7.5, and really it's zero because that's a planned spend down. But that's just a quick snapshot, and then we'll have a detailed budget book online in the next few weeks that'll have everything.
Any questions? Thank you. Our next commission meeting is September the 14th. And getting into our really other business, getting into shout-outs and those kind of things. Let me start the shout-out by saying I'd like to give a really shout-out to our commission secretary, if you want to call her that, or administrative assistant, Rachel Lehue. Rachel has worked really hard with us this past year to improve our agenda process. And if you'll notice in every one of our committee meetings, what was happening in the past is that a department head would get up and people watching on the TV would have no idea who that person was. So on our agenda right now, all of our department heads and anyone who speaks on any of our agenda items is identified, where the chairman will have the opportunity to introduce them or give them the opportunity to introduce themselves, plus other things that we've worked to upgrade our agenda process and our meeting process. And I'm beholden to Rachel for helping us through that process. So Rachel, I know you're probably asleep right now. Thank you for all you've done for this commission. Good job. Other shout outs.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Johnson.
this is not a shout out, it's back to other business. I was trying to get your attention.
I'm sorry.
But that's my fault.
I'm sorry. Let's back up and go to other business.
Out of respect for our fellow Commissioner Paul Johnson, and being on the prevailing side of the transfer station item 1D and E vote, I'd like to reconsider this vote. We've already had all the discussion. We shouldn't really have any more discussion. I'm just reconsidering so he can get his vote changed to a yes instead of a no. Just respect for a fellow commissioner. It's simple and quick.
So you were on the winning side?
Yes, sir.
And you can call for a revote? You sure you want to do that?
I trust the commissioners to stay with their same votes. This is only to get another yes vote back on.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure that that's the right thing to do, but I think it is. As soon as Nick comes back in the room, we'll get the correct answer. Let's go ahead with shout-outs. I want to bounce that off of him first, okay? Continue with shout-outs. Michael Rather.
All right, 2, 3 people. Shane Vaughn, don't know if y'all know him. He was just promoted sergeant in the SRO division. I know Shane a little bit, and one of the greatest guys I know, and a very, very large asset to our county, and especially our schools, as an SRO, now a sergeant. Another one is Ty Downing. I think I've been around Ty a little bit, 26 years, and he retired. And I hate to see the guys that are that seasoned leave, but they've left a legacy and for others to follow. So I want to shout out to him and his 26 years of service for this county. And the other one is kind of 2 people, but mainly Dan Goodwin. He was a cold case detective with Bill Sharp. I grew up around a young lady that I knew personally, and the year after I graduated, she and I graduated. I think she was Oakland, I was at Riverdale. She was murdered. Knew her mom, her aunt, knew Laura very well, and we all knew in school who did it. Not what you think, it's what you can prove that matters. And when Dan Goodwin and Bill Sharp got on the cold case unit, that was established a long, long time ago. Dan and Bill actually came to my office to interview me, not as a suspect, but as someone who knew Laura, the possible criminal, and some others. and they solved that case. The guy that murdered her is spending life in prison because Dan Goodwin and Bill Sharp, and Dan Goodwin has recently retired. And again, we have lost tremendous guy, but I know there are younger, tremendous guys that are going to come up and fill those shoes. So I just want to shout out to those guys.
Thank you, Commissioner Rather. Commissioner James.
I'd like to give a shout out to whoever locks up the courthouse. They are so efficient and so good at their job that a couple of us were locked up in here Monday night. So I just want to appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make mine real quick.
Commissioner McMurray.
I'm sorry. 2 days ago, I was heading to pick up my son from school, and I witnessed a crash that could have been probably deadly between a grandmother and 3 of her grandchildren, and she hit another lady that was pregnant. I want to give a shout out to these individuals from our public safety. One was one of the sheriff's deputies. His name was Mr. Deputy Matt Mosley. He was on the scene very promptly and took over the situation pretty quickly. And also EMS personnel Zachary Gray, Savannah Cleek, and Alex Butler. And then also our fire and rescue showed up on the scene promptly. 4 individuals, Captain Dallas McLemore, Engineer Jacob Hill, Firefighter Colton Bond, and Firefighter Nick Davis. They showed up swiftly and acted very professionally and calmed everyone down. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to those. We have some of the best public safety individuals in the county. And I will say Murfreesboro showed up, but they showed up right behind our county officials. So big shout out to them, and thank you all for what you do. So.
Thank you. Good job. Commissioner Davison.
If you all would just bear with me for a second. If you don't mind wishing happy birthday today to Miss Jane Vales. She couldn't be here tonight because she is 108. And she is a longtime Rutherford County resident. And so Mayor Carr was gracious enough to send a proclamation, and she received that today along with, I believe, one from Laverne and one from Smyrna. So if you don't mind, if everybody just say happy birthday.
Anyone else? Just a second as we wade through this.
First. Start.
You want two separate motions or just one motion for both? Okay. As I said, this is just out of respect for our fellow Commissioner, Paul Johnson. During the delay, I went over and asked him, are you sure you want to change your vote? And he said yes. So I'd like to make the motion, being that I'm on a prevailing side, to reconsider 1D.
Start with 1E. Start with, yeah.
Yes.
We have a motion to reconsider M1E, and that's a detailed resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for a solid waste transfer station. We had a motion and a second. We don't have to read it, do we? I can just do
No,
it?
this is just the motion to reconsider it.
Okay.
So if this motion passes, someone's going to have to make another motion to approve the bond and do another vote on it.
Okay, we've had a motion to reconsider. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Yes. The motion to reconsider passes. Commissioner Johnson, if you'd make that motion.
No. Sorry. Someone's got, we're now reconsidering item E, which was just passed for reconsideration. So somebody should make a motion to approve
That's what
item E.
That's what he's
Okay,
doing.
all right.
Right. I was going to ask you what that motion meant, so there again, being on the prevailing side, I asked for reconsideration of M.
Already done it.
Motion to approve, read it, just read.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve item, read it, Anthony, can you read it?
M1E.
M1E, and if you'd read that, read it. He can.
It's okay.
Good. Detailed resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for a solid waste transfer station.
A motion to approve that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve M1E, detailed resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for a solid waste transfer station. We're on the board. Please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
20 yes.
Motion passes. Commissioner Johnson, same thing with M1D.
Make a motion to approve,
Reconsider.
reconsider M1D.
We have a motion to reconsider item M1D
Second.
and a second. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
I need a motion. Same thing.
Motion to approve M1D. I'll read it. Initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the solid waste transfer station.
We have a motion and a second to approve item M1D, initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for a solid waste transfer station. We're on the board. Please cast your vote.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Well, it's 3 hours.
Please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. That brings us to the bloody end. Anyone have anything else? Commissioner Wilson.
I'm very sorry, Mr. Chairman. I do not want to be the last one to talk this late. But there is, number one, all commissioners are invited along with Board of Education on August 24th at 9:30, 11:30, and 1:30, back to back to back. It's the school groundbreakings. So when you mention the one-stop opening, it's the exact same time as the 3 back-to-back-to-back school groundbreakings. So I don't know if that's something y'all want to reconsider, but it may obviously affect the attendance. I just wanted to be sure I brought that up, that we have both events at the same time. Yeah, 3, yeah.
What time did you say?
11, 1, and 3. What time?
Yeah, on August 24th, Smyrna is at 9:30, Riverdale is at 11:30, and Oakland is at 1:30. It's back to back to back, moving for groundbreakings at all 3 high schools. So I just don't know how much that's going to affect the one-stop deal. I don't, because commissioners obviously have already been invited to the high school groundbreakings. I just want to make sure I brought it up.
Well, thank you for that. But this is, I think ours has already been set, and press releases are waiting to be distributed.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Anyone else?
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.